What's up, everyone? All right, so in today's episode, I'm gonna break down my trades from the morning. Today was a fantastic day. I'm sitting up over $40,000 on the day, and it all came from a stock that squeezed up over 200% in about 30 minutes this morning. Unbelievable. So here we are, 2 days into May. Yesterday I was up 33,000, today I'm up 40, so $73,000 in 2 days on the month of May. That is a fantastic start. Now for Warrior Pro members, I've got you covered. I've got the live trading archive of my trades from today uploading so you guys can watch them later tonight. You can watch them over the weekend if you'd like. Those of you guys who have not already done a 2-week trial at Warrior Trading, you better check it out. The link will be pinned to the top of the comment and in the description. You better start this weekend so you can be streaming Monday morning when I sit down at 7 a.m. Eastern. So let's pull up the chart and start breaking it down from today. All right, so I only traded one stock today. In fact, that's kind of been the theme this week. Sitting, being patient, and waiting. And then when I see something that looks good, boom, I'm jumping in and I'm getting aggressive. This is actually my P&L for year to date. And I'm sitting year to date at a little over $1.5 million. I've only had one red day so far this year, knock on wood. It was right there. Accuracy, about 72, just under 73% success, which is fantastic. So if we look at my calendar, I'm just gonna pull up the calendar just for 1 second. So I finished the month of April as a no red month, $474,000 of profit. And here we are already rolling right into May with $33,000 on the day yesterday. All right, so I'm gonna push this back up here for right now. I'm gonna talk a little bit about a technique that I implemented in my trading that helped me stop losing. That produced 76 consecutive green days earlier this year. In fact, in the last 100 days, you wanna know how many red days I've had? Only one. Over the last year, how many red days have I had over the last year? Maybe 7. And this is because of a very specific strategy that I implemented in my trading starting just last summer. So I funded my first account in 2001. So 2 decades in the market. And it was only last summer that I had this big epiphany with how to scale into the day. And that has sent me on this really strong hot streak where now I've kind of got this benefit of I'm on such a strong hot streak that I've got a lot of momentum and I've got a lot of confidence. And trading is so much about mindset. So last summer, and just to give you some context, last summer, oh, we got to clear this out. So we'll go to last summer in June. It was in June right here where, on this day, it was a bigger loss, $10,000 in the red. Now, I always say my daily max loss is $5,000. I don't want to lose more in one day than I can make in one day. And $5,000 is my daily goal. It's been my daily goal for a long time. Now, it doesn't mean I stop when I'm up $5,000, but it's just kind of the rough goal of what I have. And in fact, I had another month back here in March where in 2 days I lost 30 grand. So basically gave back all of my profit on the month and went back to flat right here in the middle of the second week. And I felt like I was in this place where I was on kind of a roller coaster. I'd have 3-4 really good weeks, and then in 2 days, I'd give back a huge chunk of it, whether it was 10% or 20%. Giving back 20% of your profit from the last month in one day is kind of frustrating. It's embarrassing. And I know I'm not speaking out of turn because I know many of you guys have experienced this and feel this in your own trading as well. So I said to myself, first of all, on these days that I'm having big losses, I'm always thinking, why didn't I walk away sooner? And why was I so aggressive? Why do I tend to be so aggressive on days when the market sucks? This doesn't make sense to me. And so what I realized I was doing is I would start each day with big size. And then if I was red on that first trade, I would think to myself, the only way to get back to flat, get to my daily goal, let alone just a flat, is to take even bigger size. So then I got into this habit where on red days, I would start sizing up more and more and more, which is borderline what we call revenge trading. And so yes, there were days where it worked and I would swing from red back to green, but on the days it didn't work, I would spiral and spin out. I'd have this huge loss. And that's where I felt like I was on this emotional roller coaster. It was like 3 weeks forward and then a big setback. And so I said to myself, is there a way that I could know sooner that today's going to be a red day? And if I told you Monday is going to be a red day, what would you do with that information? You'd probably not even trade. You wouldn't even show up. Now, I can't guarantee a future day is going to be red or green. But when you first start trading, if you start losing right away, first trade's a loss, second trade's a loss, third trade, fourth trade, fifth trade. At a certain point in there probably was a cue that the market is not working for you today. Maybe the gap scanner's not strong, you're red on your first couple trades. So I said to myself, what if on those first few trades, instead of taking full size right out of the gates, I just test the water with smaller size? Now, the reason I was hesitant about doing this at first was that I was worried it would sacrifice my profit, right? What if that first trade was the best trade of the day? And then I realized, well, wait a second, look at your calendar here. On your days that are really good, and there weren't a whole lot of them in March of 2024, but on your days that are really, really solid, you're taking a lot of trades, generally. Those are the days, 32 trades right here, 29 trades right here. So it's on the really good days where typically there are a lot of opportunities. So, 28 trades, 69 trades, 35 trades, 74 trades. So if I sacrifice a little profit on the first couple of trades, it really doesn't matter, especially if it means I'm going to reduce how much I lose on my red days. So now, by breaking the ice a little bit more conservatively on those first couple of trades, I get to kind of get a sense of what's the market like. If I'm red on those first 3 or 4 trades, then I usually just say, all right, that's not happening. Or, well, I'm not even red that much because I was trading with small size. So as long as I'm patient, if I can wait and be patient, usually there will be 1 or 2 good setups each day that can at least get me back to flat, and maybe it's a small green day. And that's part of what's allowed me to have such a long hot streak. Yeah, 1 red day over the last 100, but generally just a long stretch of consistency is by breaking the ice a little more conservatively. So when it comes to my trades today, we'll just back this up for 1 second. So let's pull up my charts. So when it comes to today, FRGT was the first stock I traded. And on my first trade, I made $1,000. Now, this was not anything super crazy, but what happened with FRGT was the stock hits our scanner, it starts squeezing up, and the catalyst was related to Trump cryptocurrency, Trump coin. So I'm thinking, all right, this is interesting. It's in the same kind of vein as KIDZ. This is the stock that made a big move just yesterday. Actually, it's halted down right now. But yesterday it went up about 500%, right? From less than $2 all the way up to 10 this morning. So big move there. So I thought, all right, and UPXI had a similar catalyst. So I'm like, all right, this is sort of on trend with the current catalysts that are working. So FRGT hits the scanner, starts to pop up, and initially I'm thinking it's a little cheap. But I remind myself, KIDZ, kids was cheap yesterday, and then it made a huge move. So what I ended up doing on this, and you guys will see this in the live trading archives, those that are Warrior Pro members, but I end up finally breaking the ice on it. It squeezes all the way up to 220, pulls back, goes up to 240. It dips down here, and I bought this dip right here. It pops up, and I make $1,000. All right, that's not the big winner I was hoping for. I thought that I might be in kind of near the top. So I was like, be careful, don't go with full size. Now, I was aggressive, but not with full size. And then when it comes up right here, I got back in. And right there, boom, we got a nice squeeze. So I added as it pulled away right about here at about 230. So I looked at this as it was pulling back, and as soon as it broke over that pivot right there, that's where I bought. So around $2.30, I take my starter. I added for the break over 250. Hits a high at 255 right here, and I take a little profit off the table. It dips down, and I added back right here for the first candle to make a new high. We squeeze up to 275 right there. Fantastic. It pulls back a little bit here. It dips down a little bit more. So now I'm kind of like, all right, what's this thing going to do next? And I noticed we've got a little double top, right? A little double top, so I was a little worried about this. It pulls back, and then all of a sudden right here, it pops back up. I didn't expect that pop. I don't really know. It just kind of out of nowhere sort of popped up right there. And so when it came back up here to 79, it pulls back for a second, and I added right there for the breakthrough 79. Now, my biggest mistake was that I waited for confirmation on this. Now, you pay a price for confirmation, and the price I paid was that by the time I got filled, I was in at 88. So instead of being in at 78, I was in at 88. So 10 cents a slippage because I waited for confirmation. I waited for it to break through the high before pressing the buy button. So I filled up here at 88, 89. It dips down, but it goes up. It keeps going, goes up to 310, a little pullback at 313, 314, and then it rips all the way up to 350. So because I got in a little high and then added for the break of 3, I took some profit here, and then I added back for the breakthrough 314. I wish that I had been able to get in a little lower so I could have just held through this whole move. But this red candle made me a little nervous here. Now, we are talking about a 10-second chart, but this is also a stock that went up 200% in really a matter of minutes. So it was moving so quickly, I needed this fast time frame to be able to get really dialed in on it. Now, this was kind of our kiss of death. This was a big topping tail candle, a big rejection. It sells off. It comes back down. And although it did end up rallying back up to basically a double top, it wasn't able to break through the high. But you know what's interesting is I was thinking about the chart yesterday on, what was it? It wasn't KIDZ. It was the other stock I traded. Now I'm blanking on the ticker. What did I trade yesterday? It's so funny how quickly it's like out of sight, out of mind. You totally forget. Oh, Zcar. That's right. So Zcar, this one yesterday pre-market also had a fairly dramatic double top right there. It popped up, pulled back, popped up again, pulled back. But then it came up and squeezed at the open. So I was sort of hoping that FRGT would give us a similar move, right? It sort of was looking like it might right here, but then unfortunately this bigger red candle kind of knocked it down. Interestingly, big red candle, but not on terribly high volume. However, this retest of the high was also not on terribly high volume. So it seemed like for whatever reason, traders were sort of less interested in this as it was going higher. And then attentions kind of shifted and there were some other stocks people were focusing on. And so at the end of the day, I pulled $20,000 of profit out of the market today. I thought that was a fantastic morning. And I did that more or less in this little window right here, which was from, well, I didn't even break the ice until, 2:30 or so. So it was basically right in these little candles right here. And that's where I got the bulk of the profit. I did get, that was $39,900 and I got another $400 on it. I think it must've been right around here, but it didn't pull away and break through the high the way I hoped it would. And so that ended up just being a small winner. So, at this point right now, we've got a couple of really solid days. And I did start today by kind of breaking the ice, getting a cushion. And then once I had that cushion, at that point, sized up and was like, all right, here we go. We've got a stock that's squeezing. And the market these last 2 days has been really hot. Whereas Monday and Tuesday, kind of cold, right? Tuesday was a no trade day. But this week in total is a great week. So I'm sitting in the green. Let's see, on the week, I guess it would be probably, 70,000 just from yesterday and today. And then the beginning of the week was another 20,000. So it's like $90,000 on the week. Now that's about half of what I made last week. Last week was super strong. I mean, two $50,000 plus days, 3 of them actually. It was a really strong week last week. That was actually the best week of the entire year so far. So this week was a little slower, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but then we really picked up here on Thursday and Friday. So I'm excited because now I've kind of accomplished my first goal, which is getting a little bit of a cushion going into the month of May. And to be honest, I didn't expect it. In fact, I think it was on Wednesday, I was saying, you know what? Usually when a month starts with the first day on like a Thursday or a Friday, I'm kind of like, it's sort of a funny time because usually I'm sort of scaling down towards the end of the week. It just so happened that we got a great move yesterday. And no, I didn't make as much on it as I would have if that stock had been a little stronger and it had a little bigger cushion on the day before it popped up. But still, 33,000 is great. And then today I was a little more aggressive because I had a cushion from yesterday, right? So this is how that mindset, you start to build that momentum that creates confidence. And this is that positive feedback loop that we talk about. So how do you cultivate it? Well, you start by practicing in a simulator. You follow the strategy, the written rules of the strategy. You make sure you're choosing the right stocks, you're taking the right entries, and you just build that track record. Once you've got track record in the sim, you flip the switch with real money with small size. And then after a period of several weeks and several months, you increase that size, and that's how you make that slow transition from sim to real money. All right, so if you guys want to join the 2-week trial, link is in the bottom of the comments, top of the comments, and in the top of the description. So I'll be streaming bright and early Monday morning, and I'm looking forward to seeing you guys in the chat room. If you sign up for the 2-week trial over the weekend, you'll also have access to some of the classes that are part of the curriculum. So make sure you guys check those out, and I'll put links to a couple other episodes I think you'll enjoy right here. And I want to thank you as always for tuning in, and remind you that trading is risky. My results aren't typical, so please manage your risk and practice in a simulator before putting real money on the line.